Hey guys, Spencer here. Welcome to my channel, and so excited to introduce the first episode of my new show, Cooking with Creatives. The show will feature interviews and recipes by different creative people from different backgrounds with different skill sets, and I'm so excited that I'm able to just bring such a diverse group of people to my kitchen. As a musician, the beginning of this show will mostly feature musicians, but my long-term goal is to recruit people from outside of music to really showcase how different ways creative people create, as well as how they create in the kitchen. The show is completely unscripted, so sometimes it might seem like I go off track, but like in the kitchen, it's about being creative in the moment and making sure the conversation is always interesting. My first guest that will be featured on this video is Robin Meiksins. Robin is a flutist I met at the Splice Institute in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Links in the description below for that. She creates content regularly on YouTube. She creates content on YouTube that mostly features works by living composers. She is one of the most prolific performers of contemporary flute music, and I thought that as a content creator, she would be a very interesting first episode for this channel to show kind of what we're about as somebody who's also trying to create new content for YouTube. I also chose Robin because her dish is a very approachable and healthy and inexpensive dish that anyone with not that many cooking skills can try to create at home. We will be making chicken shawarma. Links in the description below for Robin's channel, as well as the recipe that we are making today. Please consider subscribing to her channel and liking her videos. Also, please subscribe to my channel and like this video. Please also comment below with any questions or thoughts or concerns or pictures of the food that you're creating alongside with us. We'd love for you to create the food with us. It just would mean us so much to see that the food that we're making has had an impact on your own personal food journeys. Anyways, let's cook together. I must say that your recipe has been my absolute favorite one to cook.
It's so good.
But it's because it's something that I already kind of made regularly, but like I like aspects of the spices that you were using. Yeah, I was watching your videos and I really, I have lots of questions. I mean, I had watched a number of them before this,
Yeah.
but like as we were talking about then and as I got to know you when we met at Splice, I could tell immediately that you have a proclivity for, a very kind of specific type of music, right? And not that that's a bad thing, but I'm curious, like, how did you get into, like, as a flutist, how did you get into performing, like, mostly, contemporary music, and it seems like more towards the experimental side, microtonal, electronics, and all that stuff?
So I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, and Cleveland is home to what was the only contemporary youth orchestra in the country at the time. I don't know if that's the case still, but contemporary youth orchestra. I joke it's like baby's first new music because it's not the really meat and potatoes of the music scene or contemporary music, and they play music from 1900 on. I actually don't know if that's changed either with the turn of the century and all that jazz, but like we did Holst, but we also did Joan Tower.
Right.
And they commission at least 2 pieces every year. They commission a major concerto every year, so it's a really great way to like explore what new music is there. And then I went to school in Canada where contemporary music is basically required. It's just part of the culture there is you do new music, partially because creation and Canadian music is so important in Canadian music schools.
Uh-huh.
There's the Canadian Music Centre. There's lots and lots of funding and interest in creating Canadian music. So there's lots more composers with a lot more support. And there's also people who are doing things like the Toronto Creative Music Lab and what was the Toronto Creative Music Lab. what was the Toronto Creative Music Lab and Montreal Creative Music Lab, and all of these different projects are popping up there. So there's just a really big culture there. Right. And so I just went along with it. And then I went to Indiana, and no one was doing it, and I realized that I really missed it. And so kind of started doing more composer collaborations, and then ended up really loving the avant-garde. I just kind of started playing more avant-garde pieces and loved it, and that's really what has spoken to me the most. But I also do think I should break out a little bit more. And that's where a lot of the projects came from. That's where 52 Weeks came from. I made a very, very conscious effort to pick pieces that weren't all in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Because I could have very easily picked at least 30 very, very contemporary avant-garde extended pieces, and I chose not to do that because I wanted to have a wide representation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm almost done cutting vegetables.
No worries.
But I'm gonna drain the garbanzo beans.
Oh yeah, I need to do that tonight. Mine too.
I'll be honest, I had never made used garbanzo beans for anything before, because I have not been a big hummus fan or anything like that. And it's not not for any reason. I don't know. I think that my reasoning for not liking hummus has more to do with pre-made hummus is just always disappointing to me.
Yeah.
And I just never was well, I like all sorts of other things, so I don't need to. Yeah. I don't need to eat this.
I also inherited these ramekins from my boyfriend because he bought 2 sets by accident, and I have never used them. So this is their christening.
Mm-hmm. So one thing that I did when I was making this, a couple things that I tried, is I think I like it a little more less thick, which I know you said to your desired thickness, which I really loved.
Yeah.
Because I kind of like it more in that sauciness, but I also tried it. I tried it both ways, and I think I overdid it the first time or underdid it the second time.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna try it with just half a lemon, and I've been using fresh lemon.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the lemon side of things, so I usually end up putting more in. I can hear the birds.
Oh.
I don't know what they're doing, but...
They're being birds.
They're being birds.
But anyways, okay, so you, moved around, and then you got settled in Chicago. And how long have you been in Chicago?
In June it'll be 4 years.
Oh wow, so it's been quite a while, actually.
Yeah, I've been here basically longer than anywhere that I've lived as an adult.
Okay. This will be my longest at the end of next year as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, Chicago definitely feels like home now, where it was very much this place that I lived for a while. So it's nice to actually, feel comfortable here now. I was chopping up the garlic last night and was like, oh, right, there's 5 cloves of garlic in this.
No, garlic is probably one of my most used ingredients.
Yeah.
I always have garlic on hand.
There's no zest or rind or anything, so you can just use lemon juice, yeah.
Right, you can just use lemon juice, which is really great, actually.
It's actually, I adjusted it a little bit, but it's from, a cooking, one of these cooking blog recipes where, they tell you your life story before they actually get to the recipe. And then I just kind of adjusted the spices and put more lemon in it.
Well, and I'm gonna put red pepper flakes in mine.
Yeah, and I have cayenne in my chicken, which I didn't put in the recipe, but was like, oh, this is tasty. I usually put this in anyway.
I didn't put it in the. I didn't think about cayenne. I should put that in. It's not in the marinade, but that's okay. One of my least favorite things is to peel garlic. I literally hate peeling garlic.
The head I got this week was really easy to peel. I don't know what qualities it has, but it's...
You moved around. You've been in Chicago for 4 years. And when you first got to Chicago, what was your experience when you first got there?
It was pretty miserable, to be perfectly honest.
Mm-hmm.
I was working as a cashier for a large pharmacy chain. So I wasn't in the pharmacy yet. And I was working 4 to midnight, and I knew no one, and I basically couldn't go to concerts because I was working 4 to midnight. And I was just trying to make enough money to pay my rent. And through that, and through feeling like the first 2 months, I felt like I really wasn't, why did I move here kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's where the 365 came from, was I was just at my wit's end and I needed to do something. And I had been posting on YouTube since 2015, mostly like advice videos and the kind of talk to the camera style videos that I still do.
Yeah.
But was also inspired by Fifi O'Hara, who's a drag queen, if you don't know, who was doing, at the time, the 365 of drag. So every day for the full year was posting like a full look on Instagram. And I had just seen that on Instagram, was like, oh, this is super cool. And was thinking about Olivia, I don't know how to say her last name, Olivia, I think it's Juergens, who does 15-second harp.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically for like all of 2017, you could send her anything that was 15 seconds long for harp and she'd record it within 24 hours. And also drew on Park's 100 Strange Sounds, and with like kind of all these things floating in my head, and how do you do these things with music and with performing and with YouTube, and came up with this idea where I played a piece a day for a year, and about a month in threw in the composer submissions. And that is really what made me feel comfortable in Chicago, despite not having anything to do with Chicago. Like, it could have been done anywhere.
Right.
But it was a chance to do something that was like, I could play every day and I could play all the time, and I didn't have to have the connections to get hired. And it did actually help me get hired places as time went on. But it was kind of taking control of my career in a way that I felt like I couldn't before.
Right. Wow. I love that. So, I love like these stories of queer people basically inspiring other people to be creative and to try new things.
Yeah.
Like, and that's like why I love being part of the queer community.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just so like, I don't think that I would be as creative, if I didn't have all these other people out there making all this really spectacular content that is just about taking the thing that they're good at and being creative with it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so many people who do things in print media that I'm super inspired by, and I'm like, okay, how do I put this in music? How do I put this into a moving video or whatever it is? Like one of my favorite videos in the 365 was it's Cristiano Melli, who's a Brazilian Netherlands-based composer. And he asked me, instead of doing my normal, you just play the camera video, if I would film myself like taking off a full phase of makeup super slowly, mm-hmm. as kind of a performance art version of what the piece feels. And so it kind of got to include my love of makeup and my love of that, and also just more performance art and less of just, hey, this is of me playing an instrument into a camera.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move to that. So you discovered that when you were working with in an online setting, that like just playing to the camera isn't always gonna be the right option.
Yes.
Can you
so I obviously, most of my videos, if you've seen my channel, are me playing to a camera, but I also find like that I always have a background. Like I have a full replica of MC Escher's Metamorphosis 2. MC Escher is one of my favorite artists, and it's been in the background of most of my videos for a very, very long time. So it's also creating an ambiance of like, this is a snapshot into my life and not just me recording something like a concert would be. So even if it is just me playing to a camera, it's a different feel just because I'm kind of inviting you into my home and into my safe space and not just presenting myself in full concert gear and a gown that touches the floor. Like, I've recorded videos with bedhead essentially and no makeup on, and I've done videos with like full glamour and everything like that, but it's much more personal because it's more me and it's like my personality and my life as well. And I mean, there's some videos in the 365 where I clearly had been crying before I recorded them. Like, I'm not trying to hide what's happening in my life. I'm just trying to do this thing while my life is happening.
Wow. Okay, so that's really thought-provoking. I mean, it's very personal and very intimate, and you're right. I mean, I think that with all these Zoom calls that people have been on, we're inviting people into our homes, but, you know, this idea of performing in your home, this thing that is your profession, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, like, yes, people are Zooming for work at home, but I think it's like it's slightly different when you're in a performative setting, because as a performer, you're used to this like idea of you wear your concert black and you're, you know, in front of an audience and you're, you know, you are there to look, you know, perfect. And there's this idea of what perfection has to be, right? And so,
which is, it's also why lately I've been filming a lot of my, like, I improv to warm up just because it's something that I've, like, become very comfortable with, and it's part of what has made me comfortable with improv to begin with. And lately I've just been putting my phone up and just recording them as I'm doing them, just because I feel like it's an interesting musical exploration, and it's also just a more vulnerable way to share what I'm doing. Because there's no pretense there. I'm not trying to play good music. I'm just trying to explore some sounds. And so it becomes more interesting for me to do these things because I'm like, oh, okay, let's see what, like yesterday I recorded one which I was trying to figure out which multiphonics would speak. And that was the general idea, but trying to make it musical. And I thought it really ended up interesting. And so I was glad I recorded it. So yeah, I see a lot of people, especially now, like doing these very prepared things, and that's great. And like, I understand why people are doing it, but I also think it's a lot more genuine and more interesting if it's also a little bit more vulnerable, and people are more willing to risk some stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for everybody watching, we pre-marinated the chicken. I did it around noon, but you could do
it was last night.
Yeah,
so.
but you can do it the night before. I tried it in a couple different ways, and I found that the difference wasn't that big. I also tried it right before without marinating it, and I did it with yogurt, and I found that yogurt. I didn't love it as much with yogurt, but that was just me. And I think it was partly because I also really love the yogurt sauce that goes with it.
Yeah,
and so with yogurt sauce, it just was like, this is overwhelming and unnecessary. So I chose not to use the yogurt sauce, but that is totally okay. So much that I want everybody to know is that there is no wrong way to figure out how to cook. But anyways, let's start cooking.
Yes.
So I have my heat on. Is your heat on?
It is not, but I will put it on.
I have found that what kind of pan are you using?
Sorry?
What kind of pan are you using?
It's just a regular. It's a Teflon
non-stick.
12-inch frying pan.
Okay, so you're using a non-stick. So
yeah.
The non-sticks are great. I'm using a cast iron for this, but I think either would be fine. I also have a stainless steel that I use, and I think that would also be fine. Particularly if you really like those those little brown bits at the bottom. But for this, I tend to like to use particularly things with marinades and things that I really want to develop that flavor. I like to use the cast iron just because it allows me to heat up the chicken in a really thought-provoking way.
It's also really interesting. So most Chicago apartments have gas stoves, but when I first started doing this recipe, it was in Bloomington, which is mostly electric stoves. And I had learned to cook with gas, and I didn't understand the concept of electric stoves don't turn down immediately.
Yeah, no, they don't.
So it was a very interesting thing to discover, how do you deal with very, very hot stoves.
I was in Arizona, and I had never cooked before. Like many young boys, we aren't encouraged to cook. That's not part of the culture, and it's really quite upsetting actually, because particularly for musicians, it's first off, eating out is expensive.
Yes.
And being expensive, eating out is expensive, and not only is it expensive, but it's it's not really good for you. It's really unhealthy.
Yeah.
And so I just was like, I need to start cooking, because I was living with somebody who's also, my partner is 6 years older than I am, which, today isn't that big of a difference, but at the time when I was 19 and he was 25, that's a big difference, right?
Yeah.
And so, he's an adult when I meet him, and I'm not, right? Which is kind of weird to say and gross to say when you think about it in that way, but, I don't, looking back at that time, I'm surprised that we're still together, right? Just because...
Right, because, my 19-year-old relationship crashed and burned.
Right. But, we're still together, and, here we are. I must say, I love this recipe so much. And I know I've said this, but, it really just, challenged me in so many great ways to, try something new with a recipe, with a cuisine that I already felt comfortable with, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm gonna add red pepper flakes, because red pepper flakes are the best.
Yes, they make almost everything better.
Well, yes, almost. Maybe not my custard that I just made, but
you never know.
Maybe. But anyways, I also really love the color that the turmeric adds to this chicken. It's just such a beautiful color. And I also, because I'm cooking it, and I actually use all the lemon juice and let it cook in the lemon juice. And it's so good. Because you get that just citrusy, it's almost refreshing. It's so good.
Yes.
But you've been doing these online, call for submission projects with composers since 52 weeks, right?
No, since 365.
Oh,
365 was the first call.
Okay, 365. So you've been doing it since then, and so I want to know the difference between working on that project where you're working on 365 days of flute, but with a lot of different people that you don't even know, right?
Yeah.
Because you probably don't know every single person that submitted things, right?
I still don't.
Right. And I fortunately have met you in real life, right? And we met in real life. We didn't even meet. I didn't even know who you were before we met, which is actually I kind of like. So you've been doing this for a while, and you have. I want to know the difference between working on that type of project where you have all these different people that you don't know versus working on collaborations with people that you do know, and how that changes the project for you.
So I think I like working with people I don't know more sometimes, just because I don't have to feel like I have a reputation in the music world. Because I've been around for a long time and I've played a lot of people's music. And sometimes I feel scared that I'm not going to live up to the expectations of like what people think I'm going to do. And so if I don't know you, then I don't have that problem. But then it's really easy when I'm working with someone who I know, because they know what I can do, they know what I'm good at, they know what I'm bad at. And so if I'm like, hey, I really can't do this, people take me at my word that like I tried and this is not happening.
There's performers all the time they're like, well, if they say they can't do it, then there's a problem there.
Right. So like in that sense, people trust me that like if I say I can't do it, I literally tried, could not do it, and I'm giving up. And it's not something that I'm taking lightly. Where I've had some experiences where some composers have kind of, I don't know whether they felt like I was giving up, but they were really like, no, you have to do it. And it was kind of like, okay, give me some leeway here.
Oh, composers, calm down.
Thank you.
You are not that important.
But I don't know. I don't really. I try not to create a difference between the people I know and the people that I don't, because I don't want there to be a different experience. I don't want it to feel like favoritism, or feel like it's not like I'm not paying attention to the people I know. Because I can also feel like it'd be an opposite situation where I'm paying a lot of attention to these people I don't know because I'm scared about what they're going to think and everything like that. And so I'm like, oh, this person's my friend, I don't need to care about their music. And I never want that to feel that way. Mm-hmm. Because I care about all the music I'm playing. I wouldn't be playing it if I didn't.
Right.
So there are small differences, but I think overall I treat them the same and they end up the same. It's just sometimes the process is a little bit different in that I can be a little bit more candid or a little bit less candid depending on the need.
I think that you are totally spot on. And I will say, probably the thing I hate the most about this show is that I hate doing the dishes.
Oh no.
Like, I literally hate it. I am so looking forward to my partner being here so that he can eat all the food and then he can do all the dishes. And since I came up with an idea that, realistically probably won't provide me any sort of additional income, but who knows? You know more than anybody.
You never know.
You know more than anybody. I'm definitely going to be going the Patreon route.
Yes.
That's fun.
And I think you have a show that is reasonable to have a Patreon for because like you have built-in expenses that everyone can see.
Right. That's the thing is that like the amount of cooking that I'm doing, I'm spending way more money on food right now than what and just so everybody knows, I just put chickpeas into the pan. And I took the chicken out of the pan, and then I added the chickpeas directly into the same pan where the cooking liquid was. And I'm gonna add some salt and pepper. But anyways, I mean, you're totally right. I wanted to film this video first before I made my first like vloggy style. I filmed my first video, and it'll be coming soon and having like teasers. And I'm gonna try to do a vlog. I'm gonna try to put out videos twice a week. Once with this interview, and once with just like a vlog style thing.
Yeah, I think that's a good schedule too. Because it's not too much, but it's enough that like people will look forward to it.
Right, and one will be me talking about the process of learning how to make all this stuff. And the other half will be like talking about my work as a musician, as a composer, as a teacher. Stuff like what you were doing as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but anyways, as soon as you responded, I was like, I want Robin to be first. Because I think everybody else who's on the show has no relationship with YouTube, right? They have no relationship, and it wasn't about you, like me, feeling like, oh, I can't do this without you. It wasn't like that. It was more of like, all of these people are trying to put together meaningful collaborations over the internet and are doing it like because of crisis, right?
Right. Yeah.
And they have literally no idea why or what they're doing. They're just doing it because they're like, well, we have to do something because this is
right. Exactly.
like we've invested all of this time, money, and energy into learning this craft, and now we have to create. Now we have to like create because that's an important part of the career. And
right.
now we're being told that we're not allowed to. So we have to figure out some alternatives. So can you talk a little bit about that?
I mean, so I don't know. I can't tell you what drew me to the internet or internet creation in general, but something did, and it clicked, and it's been what I've focused on for the last 4 years. And I think the biggest thing with internet creation is it has to be for the internet and not something that you do in person that you're just porting onto the internet. It can be something that can exist in real life. Like, a lot of my projects clearly could exist in real life. A lot of them are just concerts, essentially.
Right.
But they're built with connection and community in mind, and building ways to connect communities that aren't connected physically. And so it's more about thinking about the ways the internet can help you rather than the way the internet can hinder you. Because it is very hard to be like, oh, I have no audience, I don't have that feeling, I have to talk to a camera, which is not fun. Like, talking to yourself or to a blank screen is really, really hard. And it's, like, but if you can find, like, I met all these amazing composers all over the world, like the 365 composers from every continent except Antarctica. And that was super cool. Like, how many people can say that they've done that in a year? And so it's more about figuring out what the internet can do for you rather than what it can do to stop you. I'm really good at like internet catchphrases, because the other one that I use I have a presentation that I did at Splice Festival about internet creation with electronics, and my whole thing is like YouTube and the internet as a creation space rather than an archive. So that you're creating things that exist on the internet rather than creating things and then putting them on the internet. Yeah, like, this is something I think about it a lot because I have to talk about it a lot because it's something, like, my career is very abnormal to the traditional musician. Like, I don't audition for anything, and I freelance in a weird way, and I don't make a ton of money off what I do, but it's more building that creation space and building that, like, model to then do more. I've been talking about this for 2 years, so I should probably just do it already. But what I really want to do is expand the 52 Weeks model to 3 other musicians. So I'm still involved and I'm still playing, and we're still doing 52 weeks worth of music, but everyone's doing it every other week. And the 3 musicians are doing a 4-month stint of every other week, so they're not asked to do a full year because that's a lot to ask of someone else. Yeah. And then I'm doing the 26 weeks in between, and helping to coordinate and helping to manage everything like that. And I have some ideas of what I want to do and who I want to be involved and what instruments I want. But every time I try to get everything involved, something goes wrong.
Like, you mean coronavirus?
Yeah, or my own health issues, or like something that prevents me from being able to do what I want.
Yeah. Not to interrupt you, my chickpeas are basically done, but there's all this brown, yummy stuff at the bottom of the pan, and I'm going to deglaze it with a little bit of the wine that we're drinking.
That seems fair.
And just a little bit, because when you deglaze a pan, you get all of that beautiful, cooking with gunk. I don't even know what they call it. And it just imbues flavor into whatever you're cooking.
Yes. Which I don't have any of that because of my nonstick pan.
Well, yeah. That's why I love using the cast iron, because that's what you get. But because I'm drinking the wine, it was right next to me, so it was sitting here. Like, the way that music careers happen are, first off, never linear, right?
No. No, never.
They're never linear, and they're also
and
like
what you expect.
they're never what you expect, and like people are gonna say, oh, this is what's gonna happen, but they also like you're gonna be thrown curveballs, and I feel like the people who continue on with it are the ones who figure out how to be okay with what the curveballs are, or how to adapt to what the curveballs are. And it seems like you've done that.
Yeah, and I think maybe it's probably maybe more adaptable. Like, okay, I don't want to be in an orchestra, or okay, I moved to a city and no one's hiring me immediately because why would they? And so it's been like, okay, well, what skills do I have? What interests do I have? What resources do I have? And so it's made me more willing to go different directions.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Because if you had told me 4 years ago I would have had my career on the internet, I would not have believed you.
If I told you 4 years ago that you'd be on a cooking show talking about your career on the internet.
No, I would. Yeah, that would be weird. I would believe a cooking show because I do like cooking, but I would not believe it would be talking about my career on the internet.
Yeah. And then you'd be the first guest on a show because you're that great. Okay, I am going to assemble. If I wasn't at home, I probably would not prepare it the second day as efficient or as so that it tastes even better than it does, because like I cooked the second day in a nonstick, right? But I like put the leftovers of the chickpeas and chicken into a Tupperware, right, together, right?
Yeah.
And
that I have them currently together.
Right. Well, so do I. And so I put them together, and then and keep in mind, like, I have cooked this specific recipe like 3 times. This is the 3rd time I'm cooking it since we talked a couple weeks ago, right? But anyways, when I store it all together, and then when I recook it, I just throw everything into this with a little bit of olive oil in a non-stick skillet, right? And just toss it in some olive oil with a little bit more salt and pepper. And because I have the sauce left over from the night before, like, this is what I'm eating for lunch tomorrow. But I just kind of throw it back in there and then reheat it up, and the chickpeas are a little softer the second day, and I like that. This is.
Can you see? Yeah. Oh yeah, yours is way prettier. I also don't have the parsley, or cilantro.
Take a picture before you eat it.
I will.
Yes.
I will figure out how to take a picture.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
So excited for this video to come out, and we'll do this again soon.
Definitely.
Okay.
Bye.
To make chicken shawarma, first dice 2 chicken breasts into bite-sized pieces and place into a medium-sized bowl. Then add olive oil, cumin, paprika, turmeric, coriander, salt, pepper, and garlic. Add lemon juice and marinate for up to a day ahead. Then dice a tomato, an English cucumber, a red onion, and desired herbs. I use cilantro here, but use parsley with robin. In a heated pan, add olive oil, then put the marinated chicken in the pan until all the way cooked through, and with a slotted spoon, place in a bowl on the side to let rest, keeping the cooking liquids in the pan. Place washed chickpeas into the same pan that the chicken was cooking and cook for approximately 5 minutes or until desired texture, and mix into the same bowl the chicken was in. To plate, place the chicken-chickpea mixture onto the plate with desired amount of tomato, cucumber, and onions and herbs. Optional, you can add yogurt sauce of lemon juice and Greek yogurt with desired amount of the same spices as before. And that's how you make chicken shawarma.